Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Jim and Sam Town Square. I'm Scott King. Jim and Sam fans know me from the Forbes articles, and I'm joined, as always, by multi-Emmy Award-winning TV producer Chris Cangilla. In this episode, we're recapping week one of January 2024. Chris, it's great to see you after the holidays, after our special Christmas episode and kind of a New Year recap that you put together in an amazing Secret Santa. And what's going on, man?
Yeah, it's great to be with you here in 2024. And yeah, it was nice to go through our old clips and kind of see, the things that we talked about throughout the year. I can't believe we've done about 40 or more of these things already. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, yeah, it was nice to put that out. It was nice to get the love and the hate of why do we do these things. But yeah, it was a good time and happy to do so. And I'm excited about continuing this in 2024. So I had a great holiday. I hope you guys did as well.
Absolutely. I think the diehards like us know why we do it. And we see some kind comments and get some nice follows. And it's funny for people to leave comments like that. The people that usually comment against us don't like Jim and Sam. And
Yeah.
it's like, why would you watch a video about fans of Jim and Sam if you don't like Jim and
Just
Sam?
like
You take the
Stern.
time to comment. Like,
Yeah.
what's your life like?
Just like in the Stern movie, they listen longer because they want to see what they say next. So hopefully that people want to know what we're going to say next.
I think you're right. And I just love, I mean, I do, I get on here and say, hey, there's a lot to talk about. It's, some weeks are better than others. Like they came in at 2024 with a great week and it was a short week. Like I was very, very, I don't want to say surprised because we listened because we love the show, but I was pleasantly surprised what a strong start to 2024 this week was. It starts with Jimmy getting in an Uber and there is a pizza crust on a plate next to him in the back seats. And we know that Jim, I don't know if you could file this under predictable corporate rigidity because it was quite a surprise for Jimmy. I just love that that's how his year going back to the show started. It was amazing.
Yeah, he posted a photo of it. I didn't know it was at first that he found
Yes,
on in
they
his Uber, and he didn't at anybody on that, and got contacted by Uber later in that day saying that they're very sorry and they're going to give him his ride for free that he did take. He was, he just thought it was funny. He wasn't really mad about it. It's just interesting how the Uber driver didn't know it existed back there. But how often you look in your back seat before somebody gets in? I don't know. So
Yeah, we don't know where he was at in his shift, and he mentioned it on Twitter, and he got fully refunded. So,
yeah,
and he expressed that he hopes the driver didn't get fired at all. And
exactly.
and going to Jim, shed some light on his Christmas. And we've heard in the past, Jim is that relative that I think everyone might have in their family. They hear about where he just gives everyone cash. And which is awesome because we know how generous he is with the Secret Santa, or at least the last one with Montone having him give him 300. But this time he got an hour out to the family Christmas drive, him and Nikki, and realized that he had forgotten all of the family cash, which I had to imagine would be a ton. So, they didn't mention that he probably went back and had all his cash in his apartment, which is crazy.
Yeah, right.
But
I think they were checks, so probably just ripped
oh,
up
checks,
those
you're right. Yeah,
checks.
yeah. He hands out checks to family. He writes checks. You're
Yeah,
absolutely right.
he says he's a
Writes
bad gift giver, and we've come
does it.
across some of those. I hope I'm a better gift giver. I know you're a very good gift giver. So, yeah, it was interesting, and so he decided that instead of doing that, he's just going to Venmo his family. So he just spent the whole day at his family's sitting on the couch and probably Venmoing his gifts away.
Yeah, but that's the funny part is that he Venmoed his family money. It's like so like there's this
Only
he
Jim.
gives his parents money. Like do they know how to do I can't picture my parents knowing or learning how to
No,
do Venmo. It's very funny.
exactly.
Very funny. And people were still kind of calling in to chime in that they're displeased with Hot Dog from Secret Santa, as you voiced that you were as
Yeah.
well. And of course I was too. And then it's case that character we love to hate, as everyone does. But I just love that people are still like, oh my God, Hot Dog.
Yeah, I don't care. It's interesting and like you said, love to hate kind of situation. It's just like he just makes the wrong decisions a lot of the time and it just makes me, angry. Who cares? Whatever.
Hey, he likes sushi.
There
Doesn't
you go. Yeah,
know
it
what
doesn't know
kind.
exactly. Yeah,
Doesn't know what kind.
exactly.
Nikki did not get a little doggy for Christmas as we had hoped.
So the song didn't help, is what you're saying.
Went through the trouble of producing the song, and which actually impressed Troy, as we touched on ahead of the holidays, but it did not work out. I predicted it wouldn't. I mean, it's that's that was quite the deadline. The song didn't leave a lot of time, and that's something we knew. Jim's been dragging his feet, but we know it's gonna. Nikki seems to get kind of whatever she wants. Jim just hangs on to a few kiss posters on the walls.
Yeah, I mean, we should do probably like, when they do, someone's expecting a baby and they do a countdown and kind of guess the date that they're going to have the baby. Maybe we should guess the date when they are going to get the dog because, like you said, it will happen. And I imagine it's going to happen within, let's say, 2 months. What do you think?
2 months. I'll go 3 months.
All right, a little
3 months.
longer. There you
Yeah,
go. We'll
I
see what
think
happens.
I thought a few months after Christmas, definitely though, for sure. Troy got out a little bit, was on a nice little trip with his fiance, and they went to LA, did some fine eating, and sounds like, and then I'm jealous of everyone who's making it out to the Sphere in Vegas. It sounds amazing. Even Troy he didn't really see a concert, he just saw a movie from the guy who made the director who made The Whale. I think Darren Aronofsky, I think is how you say his name. And it just sounds cool. Sounds like that movie like shows everything that kind of the Sphere can do in terms of visual effects and audio effects. And I want to see this thing. I mean, you
Yeah,
appreciate production. I got to see this thing.
yeah. It looks so cool, and I'm interested in how they film a lot of these things too, and how they get all those
Yeah.
images because you have to use almost like a 360-degree camera of some sort. So it's amazing. Yeah, and he had a good trip. Except he did drive from Los Angeles to Vegas and back, and he got a ticket. And he was talking about getting a ticket because he was going through a small town and it was 35 miles an hour. Got pulled over, and thank God the cop was kind of cool and wrote it for less, but he was going pretty fast. And I'll tell you, the same thing happened to me when I was 18. My 18th birthday, I was driving up to go fishing with my friend up in the Colorado Rockies. And, it's a highway. You're driving through a town, it's a highway. But if you go, right into the small town, it goes like down to 35 miles an hour. And I was still going 55. And so I got nabbed there. But the bad thing with me, and hopefully it doesn't have to happen with him, is that you actually have to go up here in the court up in the hill. So it was like 2 hours away. I had to go with my parents.
Oh,
But the judge threw it out because I was a good kid, I guess.
usually if you show up, they throw it out. Is that once you need the cop that issued the ticket has to be there, right? That's like the only way that it doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah, usually, and the judge has his discretion. So I got a good judge, thank God.
Someone who has no discretion or sense of public opinion is an actor by the name of Kevin Spacey. This is one of the best breaks during the week because Tucker Carlson allowed him to be on his show and do this like little like Christmas back and forth in character as Frank Underwood from House of Cards, President Underwood, and Tucker, had his lines and was part of it. I just like I don't know how he
Why?
this was
That
yeah.
show is so over. I mean, no one's even talking about
This
House of
is
Cards
the show
anymore.
is the show's over. It was an awesome show. It had a huge
Yeah.
fan base, and then all the weird stuff happened with Spacey, and then it was done. It was just very obviously done. And for Tucker to like, the guys joke about platform on the show, but like
Right.
Tucker has a huge platform, and this is what he puts on. Like I don't get where his head was at with this.
It was very weird. I mean, it is a Christmas tradition that Kevin Spacey does this Frank Underwood character for, a little bit of video every Christmas, but it's just weird, and I don't understand it. But I hope he does it next year.
No, and I've of course loved the Jim and Sam breakdown. They thought it was absolutely ridiculous, and we're cracking up. We know Sam really enjoy. I mean, he said it was a terrible, terrible movie, but he was big on when Winnie the Pooh became public domain, and he saw Blood and Honey in theater. Bought a ticket to see Blood and Honey, the horror movie made with Winnie the Pooh characters, and the same thing's happening now with Steamboat Willie. Soon to happen with the other iterations of Mickey, I believe, and there's already a preview for a horror movie. And it's just one of those things, Sam loves horror movies and bad movies, so they definitely talked about it.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting, and I'm not sure how much will be released after that because I believe if it's has to be after the creator's death and some years that things go into public domain. So if a corporation like Disney owns other trademarks, I don't know how soon that will
Yeah,
happen, but
yeah, I'm
who
not sure.
knows? But aside from the business side of it, yeah, it was quite funny to have him break down, and even a little later we'll talk about Dan Soder being in. He was doing the voices of a lot of the characters, and he's so good doing that maybe there's a second career of guys giving voice to these bootleg characters, if you will.
That's amazing. Something that happened was the callers were calling in because we talked about how there's the new app. It came out like right before the holidays. The new app, it's been kind of driving me crazy because we do this show. I like if I miss something, if I'm doing something, I miss something. I used to just hit the loop, go back a few seconds, whatever it was, 15 seconds, 10, 15 seconds, so you can hear a line or something that was said. And you can't do that anymore. but I also was able to easily, as I'm sure you were, easily adjust to, okay, well, I'm going to go here or go there, or I got to go to the start of the show to hear the show. Callers kept calling in, and they were just they thought that there was like a 20-minute discrepancy of where they were and where the show was, and people kept calling in, and then Troy right away went and played the show, and it was like a 5 second delay. So the guys kept calling in, and then they were listening on the app, and it was like very Twilight Zone-ish because you were hearing them like 5 seconds ahead of where they were during the show. It was very funny.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to this on the app. So I was listening to it on the app,
Yeah.
talk about it live show, and then them listening to it on the app. So there's this whole like Twilight Zone like thing you're talking about. But yeah, it was not delayed like the other guys were thinking that called in, for me at least. And they proved that point. But even our friend Miguel from Jim and Sam Dank Means called in with a lot of questions. And we'll talk a little bit about more about that. But he had some great questions, and he alluded to that the apps does stink. And I agree that we need a 30 seconds rewind button or something that can
Yeah.
just skip it back, because trying to drag your finger along that timeline to get just so you can hear something else that was said is a pain in the butt.
Yeah, even though that everything kind of the visuals and everything and the interface was upgraded, I just not having that feature, but it's a worse app now.
Yeah.
They obviously should have kept that. A story that they broke down, another maybe another great breakdown this week was Jason Whitlock on Twitter thinking that speaking about how ESPN.com was running inappropriate ads. What he didn't realize is that a lot of ads, and apparently on this site and the header on this site uh, is from your algorithm and what you're
Hmm.
you're looking, or allegedly, whatever you say, allegedly or predictably based on your searches. So there were some kind of let's just say blue or strange ones that were appearing on his, and he tried to call out ESPN. He was calling out himself and Jim and
Just
Sam.
backfired in the social media world. It just backfired on him. Everybody's
Yeah, it did
making
not
fun.
go well for him with that. Not much to touch on there. And so we heard Sam saying that at the end of January he's going to be out in Tampa. Did you think that has any kind of indication with anything on the show,
Well,
Chris?
yeah, I was, they're plugging their spots. Of course, Jim's plugging his tour, and Sam's going to do that in Tampa at the end of January. And I'm thinking, because earlier in that same day, Sam says his baby is due early February. So I'm like, Sam, you're really going to go do this end of January with your baby due in early February? Are you going to be there for the birth? Are you going to make it home in time? I was starting to worry about it for a little bit because, my wife went early with our last two kids here. I don't know how
Yeah.
did your wife go early or late with your other kids? The ones later, the most recent ones.
Yes, just one. Just one was early. So
Yeah.
and
It,
it is a panic trying to get to the hospital, and like picturing not being there.
well,
Uh
we've
Same.
all seen those movies when, the first one, or the TV shows where the first one takes forever, and the wife is in labor forever. But then the second, third, even more, they come early, and I'm just a little concerned for Sam. So, I hope he makes it back in time, but if he doesn't, he only has himself and, wrestling to blame.
Exactly. New Doug Bell merch is available, and first of all, I just love that. I love Jim's merch, especially with his characters. But like, the fact that there's some things you could buy with Doug Bell and some new things, maybe we're going to see more or hear more of Doug. What do
My
you think?
favorite,
That
yeah,
any
my
indication?
My favorite part of the shirts that he does is just they're laid out so poorly graphically, and where he puts his head, because it had 2024, the zero is shaped like a head. He could have put that there, but he put it on between the four and the two on the other side. So there's a lot of stuff. He spells things wrong. That's the best part of all his merchant. Yeah, like you said, we got to have that Doug and not Sam sit down, which will spark more Doug Bell. We got to have that. Jim, listen, let's do this, huh?
Yeah, we need more Doug. There's a Kevin Hart, Chris Rock special on Netflix, and there's I guess I didn't see this yet, but I guess they're talking about there's a point where Kevin mentions the kind of the group from the Comedy Cellar and Tough Crowd, maybe kind of salutes them, but he left somebody out, somebody named Bob Kelly. And I think if you're gonna leave someone out, I think who better than, hey dude, come on man, hey dude.
Voss would be better to leave out because then he would just go ballistic. I'm a legend.
Yeah, yeah, you hear that too. Bobby,
But
just hilarious.
it was great because, Sam proposed a question to Jim. Like, Jim, was it great? More, did you be more satisfied? Sorry to use his name of his podcast. Were you more satisfied to hear your name called? It said, it came up with Jim Norton, one of the greats up there, or to have Bob not be mentioned. He goes, oh, of course, having Bob not be mentioned is more enjoyable to me.
Jim was sending Sam and Travis a video, I think earlier in the week, about guys free climbing Trump Tower, which is insane. Trump
Yeah.
Tower in New York. And we regularly hear Jimmy either talk about his thing with heights and climbing or talk about these videos all around the world where people are like free climbing or up really high, walking on something. And it really freaks him out. And I think that's of all his stuff that we've heard Jim talk about, that's probably one of the most normal ones. Like I would
Yeah.
never want to be up that high if there's not a total safety.
Right. And Sam has a great fear. When he was here, in the Sears Tower,
Yeah.
known as the Willis Tower now, he was out on that ledge and was not happy about that at all. So yeah, it definitely is something that affects those guys. I'm not too bad on it. I'm okay on some heights. I've been on top of the Hancock building outside on actually the roof, shooting something one time and looking over the edge. It didn't bother me much at all. I think I have more fear of stuff over water. If it was like over
Yeah.
water for
Yes.
me,
Yeah.
just like a big bridge or something like that. Just no.
Yes.
But then they got to, the horrible story of the guy that got stuck in the cave because they're talking about all these things that you maybe shouldn't do, like why do you have to do these things? And he got stuck upside down and they couldn't get him out and he ended up just dying there. It's just horrible. It's just very claustrophobic, very tough break by the boys on this one.
Yes, not good. They talked about the Aaron Rodgers, Jimmy Kimmel situation where, Aaron Rodgers just, they always kind of talk about whatever he says on McAfee's show because it's always either funny or ridiculous. They didn't really have strong opinions.
Yeah, I listened to it too, and I didn't feel that Rogers was, calling him out too much. I think they're just giving. It was like a give and take. It was just, they don't like each other, but so they're
Well, he's
Kimmel makes fun of him, and Rogers makes fun back and it's stuff. But yeah, I mean, what he said was probably a little inappropriate, but still, it just didn't seem as bad. If you listen to it instead of reading the transcripts, if you listen to the whole thing, it wasn't that bad.
well, he said you should be concerned about the list. I think it's a little libel, but I mean, he says
Yeah, I'm sure it is, but it's still, yeah.
yeah, he says crazy things. The what do you? I'm trying to get to remember I believe Emperor's name that they came up with the brazen bull that Jim wants
Oh,
to interview.
Peerless? No,
Oh, it was like perilous. Yeah, you might
yeah,
be
something
right.
like that. It was
Exactly.
something that had a connotation in today's world. But yeah,
What
his
is?
torture, the
Yeah,
torture
do you remember
device.
like the concoction of it?
Yeah, it's a brass bull that has this trap door that you get into this bull. So if you think about this bull, a large sized bull and a human being gets in there, and this bull is over a fire pit. So the metal just heats up and it's a torture device. You burn alive. And they had the inventor, I guess, in the story, the inventor, when he gave it to the emperor, tested it out. And then the emperor just then pushed him off a cliff. It was just weird. Just one of those turns. I don't want to go see those medieval torture chamber stuff that has no interest in me. It just gives me what they say, like the heebie-jeebies. It just
Yeah.
gives me chills. I don't like that stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of things that give you the chills, I don't know if there's a better show to listen to if you want to hear interesting discussions on AI. Like every time they talk, like it's Jim and Sam. We go for our laughs, but they really do a good job of breaking down AI. You have Jim's theory, if you want to call him Weird Jimmy, as Sam
Weird
called him,
Jimmy, yeah.
or maybe AI Jimmy now, but how AI it's all kind of self-aware across the grid, making us destroy ourselves with algorithms is fascinating right there. Jim should write a movie about that,
Yeah.
or at least a book. And he's already an author. I think he has three New York Times bestsellers. But that's interesting as it is. Then he started talking about how AI, and you probably have heard about this and have seen this. 'Cause you're a music guy. AI can remove music, can separate it from dialogue in terms of YouTube videos or documentaries. That's really interesting. Troy talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we had the best part. This was very funny. There were laughs with this. The best part is the AI. These AI articles are terrible, and you can kind of already tell and then you're taking jobs away from writers like myself. But you
Yeah.
could tell when there it's an AI article, and there's several about Jimmy and his marriage to Nikki, and one even had an interesting angle that was obviously not true. What was that angle, Chris?
Yeah, it was that Jim actually transitioned to become Nicky Norton. And then in that same article said he married Nicky Norton. So did he marry himself? I don't know. But it was a very weird thing. So I have a couple takes on this whole
Yeah,
AI stuff. First of all, when
yeah,
they were talking about Jim brought it up, Sam had the point that, there's been 20 years of Jim on the radio that they could have AI Jimmy as part of the show, just have an
awesome,
artificial intelligent Jimmy that
awesome.
is used for the show because there's enough input there. That was funny. And then talking about removing the music from that, Jim was fascinated. Yeah, you can do that, but they made the good point, and Troy also talked about it's the frequency. So if you and I are talking and we're at this tone talking, but the music is actually the bass is at that same frequency, that tone.
Yeah,
If you remove that bass, you're removing that tone part of our voice because it's like hit or miss. So you have to replace that with some other tones of your voice in there. So, it's not that's probably why it sounded a little hollow to Jim. You can do it, but and we could do that back in the day just by EQing things, but still it's kind of fascinating and I'm definitely it's going to get better and they're going to be able to remove it and then replace, you know what I mean?
yes,
So that was cool. But yeah, the AR article thing really bothers me and I know it bothers you too because real writers are, they even have fake bios for these AI reporters, and I know you're
yeah.
real. I've had lunch with you. I think I'm talking to a real person right
You
now.
never know.
So,
Simulation.
I just you put in a lot of time, and I don't think the articles that you've written on Forbes and especially on Jim and Sam, I don't think can be written the same way because there's tongue-in-cheek references that AI doesn't get, and we know that you do for
Right,
your
right.
love of the show.
Thank you. Thank you. And speaking of for the love of things, I would love to hear these little Jimmy cassette tapes. I don't remember too many specifics when they talked about how Jim said he has these cassette tapes where he's fooling around, I think he said. Do you remember anything
I think he said
specifically?
it could have been like a crank call
Yes,
kind of
that was
thing
one.
or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah. So yeah, he was like 12 at the time and he has those cassettes. So yeah, it's like bring him in. Troy can figure out how to get that audio from where it is to
Yes.
where it needs to be and clean it up. So yeah, we got to hear that.
I would love to.
Definitely.
That kind of have like an old school O&A feeling too. When people are
Yep,
bringing in old embarrassing things,
for
that would be
sure.
great. Speaking of embarrassing things, somebody that you're a huge fan of got fooled again on Facebook, and I think they reposted one of those like things you see like your parents post on Facebook about like
To get rid of ads
even mine
and
don't
see
even
your new
fall for this.
friends. Yeah.
My dad's
Yeah.
not on Facebook. My mom would never fall for this. Like, yeah, if you do this and tag this person, it will reset the system of Facebook. Who was that gentleman that got fooled?
Well, they weren't going to share who that person was, but he likes to golf a lot, and he may not sleep in the same bed as his wife. And that same person may be Rich Voss.
Oh
So
my,
yeah, Voss fell for that again, and it was nice that Travis was texting with him. Rich was on a plane or getting ready to leave on a plane. Travis was texting him about everything that was going on and asking him questions. So yeah, he did that, and then they also found a little nugget that he gave out his address. I don't know if you heard that part of it, but he gave out his address to somebody thinking it was a DM and it was actually posted on Facebook. He said, but I deleted that real quick. Well, maybe
post
someone
on
saw
someone's
it and
wall.
wrote it down. Yeah.
Yeah, he posted on someone's wall, and the whole thing with him getting fooled on Facebook. The best part, he was on a plane. He was in first class, and I think he's going
Oh,
on a
that's
golf
right.
trip. And Jim spelled it out like, look, the best part of this is that Voss is in first class right now, having to answer for himself for another Facebook folly. And
Jim loves ruining good times for his friends, and that was definitely ruining Rich's first class
yes,
experience.
yes, he did. And we know he's Airplane Jimmy as well. Really appreciates the first class experience. Another thing they got into this week was and I even joked about it on Twitter that I'm only interviewing Cat Williams from now on and with my Forbes interviews. Oh my God.
So good.
the clips on social media are great. The clips they broke down were some of the best ones. He was on Shannon Sharp's podcast, comedian Cat Williams, and just coming for blood. And Sam was, salivating. Just he was, as I think Sam said, I listened to it again this morning that he was coming for violence, and just everyone from Chris Tucker to Cedric the Entertainer, anyone he thought had mentioned him or wronged him. I think the comedian's name is Michael Blackson
Yeah.
as well. I mean, not a whole lot to say about it, but just
Well,
hilarious.
first of all, I'm a huge Shannon Sharp fan because he's a former Denver
Yeah.
Bronco, right? So yeah, it was really good, and Shannon does a pretty good job at interviewing, and didn't brought it back to just teeing up more. So yeah, Sam of course loves when people share too much on media, and then get in an uncomfortable thing. But it seems like Cat doesn't care, and he has the facts, if you will, to back up a lot of these things.
Yes, he does. Speaking of facts and things that are becoming facts, the Epstein list is out, and we know Troy just got some kind of calendar notification.
Well, maybe it's so we could talk about not being on the Epstein list. Like,
It's
make
my
sure that you're.
reminder.
Did someone just ping you on
My,
that?
my reminder to let everyone know we are not on the list.
There you go.
And yeah, and Montone likes to talk about the conspiracy, the Epstein homicide, as he calls it.
Right.
But yeah, I don't remember them getting into like a whole lot of the
Well,
specific.
there's not a lot released yet. I mean,
Yeah, it's kind of the
it's a
obvious.
lot of documents and stuff. The funniest part, I think, it was Stephen Hawkins. Is that the guy
Yes,
that
yes.
is the
He's
physicist in the
mentioned, and
wheelchair?
Jim said too. It's not a list. It's a lot of documents about emails
Yeah,
and
yeah.
court testimony.
But they had a lot of fun talking about him and what he was into. So
Yeah, yes.
it's an ongoing story that I'm sure will be talked about quite a bit on Jim and Sam.
Yes, and this next thing was like maybe one of the biggest surprises of the week, or you can even argue like the show ever. And they didn't spend a lot of time on it because there's not a lot you can say. But it was crazy that there was this like horrible road rage accident, and when the guy crashes into a tree, you hear the Halloween special playing.
Yeah, it was really weird because
Bizarre.
I saw it on Jim and Sam Dank Means that Miguel posted it, and I watched it a little bit. But if you remember on some of these, stories, it only goes for a little while. So I watched them like, what is the reference? I don't understand this. So when the guys started talking about it, I went and watched the whole thing, and of course, it's a road rage incident. This guy's chasing whatever, but you hear the guy's radio on in the car, right? And it's a commercial, and its commercial sounded familiar, but and then when he does end up wrecking, it goes into the beginning of, back with Jim and Sam, and they're talking about the Halloween special. And it was hilarious that,
Yeah.
this guy's either a fan or just happened to have it on.
Yes, and hopefully they're okay. We don't know, but that was a crazy, crazy circumstance that we heard Jim and Sam playing. You mentioned Miguel. Miguel called in about Secret Santa. I think he had some other points too, right?
Yeah, he called in about, why we haven't seen the video because did he
Oh,
asked, the guys had the video of Secret Santa, was it taped or not? And the guys they said yes it was, and Travis jumped in saying yeah it should be out here in a couple of days, it's just getting put together and whatnot. So he was Miguel's great because he'll ask all the questions that we're thinking, did he do this, what's going to happen with that, he asks all the things that are on our mind, and they seem to like Miguel a lot, so that was kind of cool. And then, they talked a little bit towards the end of the week of Travis and Jermaine getting back together for their van sleepover as they wait to go into this art gallery in Los Angeles. Now, I think that's scheduled for later in the year in spring. I don't know how it came back up. They were talking about it. It's quite funny. And they kind of had a lot of references to Brokeback Mountain, the movie, and Travis' love for Jermaine and vice versa. So it was really good. It was a good break.
all right, no judgments here. They want to sleep in a car for some fine art. More power.
Right. And speaking of judgments, what a crazy story with that guy jumping over the bench and attacking the judge. I mean, I know you saw this.
Yeah.
This guy was just getting, his sentence and didn't like it and just took off and jumped over there. That was crazy. They're running out of time on the day that they talked about it. I know they'd go into it a lot further,
Yeah, probably would.
but it was such a crazy video clip, and it was nice to get a take from them.
Yeah, hope the judge is okay as well. It has made for a great meme, kind of video meme on social media already. Only one guest this week with Danny Fizzlestick's Soda Pop was amazing. He hadn't been on in probably maybe over a year. I don't. It's been a very long time, maybe 2 years. I don't know, but he was just excellent. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Dan Soder has always been one of my favorites, and he has such a great voice and the radio before. He knows exactly what he's doing. They were talking a lot about the suicide by auto asphyxiation and how funny that is. Well, it's not funny because it's a sad thing, but that they thought a lot of these suicides by famous people could be done by that versus them just killing themselves. So they had a fun take on that. Talked a lot about Natalie Grace. And then
Yes.
Dan and his wife Katie, who used to work at ESPN, took a driving trip out to Denver, and they had snow issues. And I swear to God, they had the same snow issues that I did when I drove out to Denver with my wife on the same part of the highways, just blizzard and ice. It was not fun. And I got to be friends with Soda. There's so much in common. The Colorado thing, I know he grew up there a little bit. And he went from Denver, and then he came and I guess his wife Katie has family in Chicago here. So we got to get together because there was a lot of things that we love in the same realm. What do you think of Dan?
Yeah, I mean that whole thing about them driving together. He's a great storyteller with the snow there, and I love when you make kind of everyone in the studio laugh, or you're able to as a guest. I think that always says a lot. He's somebody that does that. He especially did it with the doing all the voices from Winnie the Pooh
That was great.
to recap that when they were talking about that Blood and Honey movie, and he took it in a certain direction, and it was absolutely hilarious. But no, Dan is so talented. He not only can kind of make everything funny, and it seems like he's a great joke writer and a stand-up, but and an interesting guy. But the impressions, he does fantastic
Yeah,
impressions.
and Dan would be probably the best guest of the week if there are many guests in the
Oh,
studio.
I think so too. Yeah, it
So
would take someone
definitely
like
wins it.
really crazy to outdo him there. Let's get to line of the week. I know you had it seemed like a couple finalists.
Yeah,
So
I do
who
have a
did you
couple
think?
finalists. I'll go through them pretty quick here. One of them was when they were talking about they had a break on gender reveal parties. You know, why do they have them? What
Right, right.
they're stupid. And I guess Big Poppy, the former baseball player, was part of one, and they threw like a ball that had colored ink in there, and once he hit it, it would show either blue or red or pink. And they threw it and missed it. He missed it on the swing, completely missed it. Now I blame that on the pitcher because when I watched the video, it was like jammed him. But it was so funny, and they were talking about that, and Jim says, he's sick of these gender reveal parties. He said, but every date he's been on has been a gender reveal party.
That was amazing.
So that was very quick, and I love that he makes fun of himself. All right, and then the second one, my biggest finalist was they're talking about, we talked about being scared of heights and watching all those videos. And when they're talking about places you're scared of, Jim mentioned that, he wants to go to I guess the Vanderbilt building they have in New York has this glass bottom floor, kind of like, Chicago has the Sears Tower where you can look down there. And it has this glass bottom. And Jim said that he wants to go there. He goes, yeah, but Sam said to him, yeah, but you just want to be laying under it and not on top of it because of Jim's former life of laying under a glass table. You can figure it out.
Yes. So is that second one your pick?
Yeah, I don't know. I like the gender reveal party, I think. That's probably what I'm going to go with. How
We
about you?
we had the same finalists. I am always partial to Jim's. Jim's usually joking about under the glass, usually a table.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I was partial to the under the glass bottom there of the building. I thought it was
So
very
we shared our lines of the week this week
yes.
together. All right.
Yes,
Well,
yes. I got your runner up at least.
fair enough. And I'll tell you what, it's like bringing us together in this new year, you and I, right?
Yes.
Because we're on the same mind. Now that we've been doing this for a while, we share the same mind on a lot of these things. So we'll have a lot of same takes, but
Same
sometimes
wavelength.
different. Yep.
Yes. But it's great to be with you in the new year, Chris, and anyone who's watching and listening and commenting. We will take all the comments.
For sure.
Thank you guys for checking out the show. And thank you, Chris, for everything you do.
Also, thank you, my brother. I appreciate everything that you do as well. And it's great to be in this new year. And it's great to be in the town square.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Jim and Sam Town Square. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell, not Doug Bell, so you don't miss an episode.
And if you're just listening to the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it.